my parents got divorced when I was about 12, so my dad and I moved to North Branch. And I had heard stories growing up about my family and stuff, but you know, when you're young, you don't care and you don't really get it. But I ended up kind of by a fluke thing ending up living in Dresser. And then once I started seeing the name around and going to Polk County Historical Society and seeing, you know, things, and I just started making connections with the cemetery. My mom would drag me there to show me the ancestors. So, you know, I finally in my 30s and 40s started getting really interested, and now I try to pass this on to my 11 and 16-year-old, and they don't care. So hopefully someday they care, and I'll have the information to pass on to them. So here's our family crest.
Oh, nice.
And then, so the Kents were from Kilmarnock, which is in the southern region of Scotland, where you see it circled right here. And I found a picture of Kilmarnock, and I'm sure it's not the time that they lived there, but kind of could get an idea of what the town looked like. So my fourth great grandparents, William E. Kent, was born October 5th, 1795, and to Jean Aitken, May 23rd, 1796. So they're both born in Kilmarnock, and they married on April 22nd, 1814, when they're both 18 years old. And between 1817 and 1819, William and Jean had 3 children, Agnes, Robert, and Andrew Jackson. So Robert, of course, is my third great-grandfather. And then in 1821, they left Scotland and emigrated to Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And so I don't know what they did there exactly, but I do know that William was a cabinet maker and a house carpenter, and I've heard stories that he was in part of building a church in New Brunswick, but I'm not really totally sure, Fredericton I should say. And they had 4 more children while they lived there. So they had William, James, Thomas, and Anna. And William, as we'll find out, is the first one to come to Osceola. So then, sometime between 1830 and 1833, the family moved again, this time to Bangor or Brewer, Maine. I think it's Brewer, but when I look at the birth dates of the next set of children that they have, they kind of list both. So, but I think it's Brewer that they actually lived in. So they had 4 more children: John, who was called Jack, Jane, Mary Elizabeth, and then Evelyn, Julia, who they called Eva. So in 1840, Robert Kent, the eldest son, returned to Scotland for a year or more. So some say that he went there to study architecture or cabinetry in the University of Edinburgh, but I did contact that university, and they said they don't have a record of him being there, so that's again where I don't know, but he was there for over a year or around a year. And some of these relatives said they would travel to Edinburgh, and they found Robert Kent with his portrait hanging in the university. I can't imagine that. And there was a very famous Robert Kent that was an architect in England. So I think it's probably more likely him than my ancestor, because I don't think he was on that kind of scale that they're going to hang him after being there for a year on their university wall. So Mary, okay, so then when he came back, he moved to Galena, Illinois, and I don't know why or where. And something about Robert Kent I call him very elusive, because I've had really a lot of trouble finding some records on him. It drives me nuts, so I don't know how he slipped through, but it's hard to find information on him. But anyway, he married Mary Chambers when he was there, and they had 4 children. William, Jenny, Benjamin Franklin, and then John, who they called Jack. And in 1847, Mary died, leaving him with their 4 children. And again, I don't know what she died from, whether it's like diphtheria or cholera or something like that. I'm not sure. And there's a picture of, at some point, of what Galena looked like. Let's see. So then, in 1844, so I kind of have to switch back and forth again, because I tried to go in order of the children, but they're all kind of so intermingled, it was really hard to keep it organized. But in May of 1844, William Jr., along with Milton Nobles, Harvey Walker, Lucius Parker, Anson Northrup, and William O'Mahony, traveled up the St. Croix River to visit a sawmill in St. Croix Falls. As the party began to return to Fort Snelling, they stopped at a creek south of St. Croix Falls. They walked up the creek and discovered Cascade Falls. The group purchased a sawmill, framework, and machinery from an unsuccessful mill from Jess Taylor at Taylor's Falls. And William Kent became the sole owner in 1852. The other partners kind of disappeared. So the Kent brothers, William, Robert, James, Thomas, and John, built the county's first grist mill and the second sawmill. The sawmill was used for 10 years and then it was torn down. A new one was built in 1855 to 56 and had a 45-foot water wheel, the largest in the state at the time. This mill was used by the Kents until 1862 or 65, again, another difference in records, when it was sold to B.H. Campbell, who was also from Galena, Illinois. And this is a sketch from 1866 of the mill. So,
Down by the river's edge.
yeah, you see this is where you can hop in because...
Well, let's go back just one. And I think what we're seeing on that sketch is, on the top left is the old hospital site. And then on the right is the sort of aqueduct or sluice is bringing water down on the right from the Cascade Falls. And then there's the big wheel right in the middle, turning sideways, of course, and then the mill is the building on this side of the wheel. So I think that's what we're looking at.
So the super steep road that goes down to the river goes right
Right to the left
to
of
the side of it, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, there's sort of a valley there between the hospital hill and where the sluice was. Neat.
This is just some other accomplishments by the brothers. The Kent brothers built a 2-story boarding house in 1847 for the 20 mill hands. In 1848, a library was started in the boarding house. It began with about 50 donated books from the Episcopal clergymen. In 1854, the brothers built a building to be used as a public school. And they also built a building to be used as a seminary in which it would be used for ladies' college. It was decided not to use that building for that purpose, and so the ownership went back to William Kent.
And you know where those buildings are?
No.
Okay, back up. Okay, the boarding house is where the Gattenbein house used to be, down at the bottom of
Down
the
the hill.
second hill where the bridge was originally.
Okay.
So that was right in there.
Do you think that's in that picture here?
It's
Would it be one
it'd
of
be
these?
straight to the left. No, it'd be closer to the water,
Okay.
to the river. But it'd be straight left of that building, within 100 feet probably. Because the house is still there, right?
Yeah,
Gattenbein
no,
house.
the Gattenbein
House.
well, that's the third house that was there after the Kent building was there.
Sure.
And what were the other ones that were there? The seminary was just down River Street on the river side of the road. And the public school is where the other school used to be.
This is where I need somebody, you, maybe, to take me on a field trip to go see these places.
And I think the boarding house was behind, you know, by P-Wise there. Because I've seen a picture when I was looking for my building, and that extended, and that's what I was told was that was the boarding house for.
Okay. Well, in 1848, Robert left his children in the care of his wife's parents and joined William in Osceola. He came to help his brother run the mill. He was the first clerk of court in Polk County, the county superintendent of schools, and was a county judge for 10 years. Robert built a furniture shop in 1878. It burnt down a year later. He built another shop and worked there until 1894. He died 2 years later on October 14th, 1896 at 78 years old. And this is a cabinet that was passed on to me from my mother that she had always told me that it was built from an old piano. She doesn't remember this now, but I swear she told me that.
And the first furniture store was over by the Mill Pond Park area in there.
Okay.
And the second furniture store was the house that was near the Baptist church, in the bank parking lot right now.
Yeah.
Carlson Evergreen used to be there.
Yes.
So, I found, this was at, I think, Osceola Historical Society House, a copy of an advertisement for Robert Kent. And I just love that where it says, done on short notice coffins.
I suppose it would be, wouldn't it? Oh.
So, and this is, the gravestones for, William Senior, the father, and Jean Kent, so my fourth great grandparents, which are buried in Mount Hope Cemetery. So they moved here in 1852, and their house was somewhere just south of us, where the hospital was located, or is located, the old one. So William died in 1862, when he was 67, and Jean at 74. And then Robert and Susan, well, I get to talk about them in a minute, never mind. Okay, so the first daughter, first child of Robert and, William and Jean was Agnes, and she married Isaac Freeland in Osceola, Wisconsin on May 1st, 1855, when she was 38 years old. Isaac was the first lawyer to practice in Polk County. Isaac had a hotel, which I don't know much about, which stood where the Methodist Church stands now. This hotel burned down in 1860, so it didn't last too long. A year and a half after Agnes and Isaac wed, Agnes became critically ill while giving birth. Henry Clay Goodwin, the brother-in-law, was sent to Hudson to summon a physician. Agnes did not survive. The baby, also named Agnes, was given to her younger brother William and his wife Nellie to raise. And then Isaac went on to marry Sarah J. Ward, and they had at least one son named Harry. And I think they ended up in Iowa eventually, because that's where I find his death certificate, or whatever. Okay, so this is, since I know most about Robert, most of it would be more on Robert, but so my mom has this cousin that lives in Clear Lake, and she has this awesome trunk that I go like to dig through about once a year. Tons of pictures. So this was a tintype picture, and she had no idea who it was. But I had looked enough at other pictures that were labeled of like Susan and her daughter Flora, that I was able to figure out that this was Robert, Flora, and Susan. And then this is 4 generations. So Susan Babb, her daughter Flora, her daughter Leah, and then that's my grandfather, Dougal Fay Kennedy. And Dougal Fay, you may recognize the name, his father owned the Kennedy Mill in Amory, which is now a county park. So. Now I just got these pictures from her last week. She had 2 more tintypes. And I'm just like, I just feel like they have to be his sons, Robert's sons. And so this is how I look for my clues. So like this one, oops, I hate that when that happens. So I gotta go back. Has the same carpet as this picture here. Oh, I knew that was gonna happen, sorry. And of course it's spam. So anyway, I'm just convinced, but let's see. So I'm still trying to figure out this one. So this is a picture of one of Robert's sons from his first wife, which is Mary Benjamin Franklin Kent. And in this picture, I don't have the whole thing there, but he's standing in front of a store called B.F. Kent. And he looks like him. I don't know if you notice in all these pictures, they have very pronounced cheekbones. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna see that through a lot of the family. Even my mom's cousin has those same cheekbones. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'm just wondering if this and he are the same. They have similar features. And then this is John, which I got off with Ancestry. So again, you never know what you're getting. It maybe could be, I don't know.
Sure.
So I got to investigate a little bit more on that, but I may never know. Oh. Okay, so these are just some of the buildings that I believe that Robert built. I had read that he built the first Catholic church in Farmington. And then this is what I call the Robert Kent house, but you guys would probably know it as the Simon Stead house. So he built it, and that's where they lived. And then this is one of the first schools that were built in Osceola, and I know that he built maybe the first one or two of them, I'm not totally sure. And then there's some tragic times for Robert Kent's family, and this was within just a very short period of time. So his daughter with his first wife, Mary, I don't know if I even put in the kids that they had together with his second wife. Maybe it's coming, okay. Anyway, she was out ice skating on the river, somewhere around here, I don't know exactly. There was an ice pocket, or ice air hole, and she went through it. And so she was skating with her fiance, and he went to help her. And then I had read that he fell in, but was holding to like a willow tree or something, and then somebody put a plank for him to get out. But the guy holding that had to let go because he was gonna get pulled in, and so then he went in and he drowned also. So just 3 months later, on March 15th, 1864, Robert and Susan's daughters Nellie and Flora were looking at a book sitting next to the wood-burning stove when Nellie's dress caught on fire and she died. And then just a couple years later, they had a baby of 3 months old and died. And so I'm not sure what the cause is, but this is the headstone in Mount Hope. And so it's like a three-sided stone with all their names on each side. And that was supposed to be known as the first burial in Mount Hope, but if you talk to Pat, she'll tell you that that's questionable. Okay, so basically Robert and Susan just had together one surviving child. Okay, in 1836, so this is the second son of William and Jean, and is Andrew Jackson Kent. He married his first wife, Eunice Dickerson, in Maine. He worked in lumbering during this time. They had 3 children together. Eunice, whatever you say it, died around 1850. They had 3 children, William, Robert, and James. So Robert went in the Civil War, and on the way home, he fell during transport off the train and was mutilated and had to be buried there. He was so badly mutilated. Andrew settled in Wisconsin in 1850, and in 1853 he got gold fever and headed to California. And there's a story that on the ship home, he had been very successful, and on the ship home there was a storm and the boat was destroyed, and they had to take all the gold, order to take all the gold out of their pockets and everything and leave it on the ship while it sank to get on the life boat. And he said it was up to their ankles, which I kind of find hard to believe that there was that much gold on there, but who knows? Yeah. So Andrew returned to Osceola in 1855 and married Esther Ann Hale. They had a farm close to Osceola, and they had several children together: Daniel, Andrew Jackson, Eva, Irene, Esther, Frederick Milton, Russell, Andrew, Jesse Fremont, Marshall, Kenneth, Amy Blanche, and Harry L. Andrew eventually went bankrupt and then moved back to town. It is said that he may have been a little crazy at the end of his life as he would wander around the town aimlessly with a Bible in his hand. And Andrew died in 1901 and Esther in 1911. And I didn't put on there, I forgot to put in there that he did end up got gold fever again and went to Pikes Peak.
And that farm was the Arnold Auto Farm.
And I have a picture here.
Okay.
So, this house he built for his wife by the airport.
Wow. Brick house?
They said it was white paneling in the beginning, so they.
It's kind of shingled over.
Yes.
Oh.
Oh.
And then we get to William Kent Jr., the first to come to Osceola. He married Ellen or Nellie Kidder, May 1855, and actually he had a double wedding with his brother and another of the Kidder girls. And there's just a note about it that they had a minister coming from Stillwater, and the steamboat or whatever it was got caught on a sandbar, and so they had to go find a justice of the peace to marry him, because he wasn't there, the minister. But the minister got there just in time, I guess, to read the final prayer for the wedding. So William was a steamboat captain and built his first steamboat in 1865, naming it after his wife, Nellie Kent. He also built the Helen Mar in 1870 and the Maggie Reaney. I was told he would give free rides to children on Sundays, and I shouldn't have apostrophe there. And they called him Uncle Bill, the kids did. He also was the county judge from 1866 to 1868, and that's when William took over. And then in 1879, William opened his door and became a merchant.
Let me switch cameras. I think we're gonna be out of time here in a second.
And this is their house, just on Cascade Street. And I guess it was kind of a